Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 hey. When you hear my voice and seeing my face, hold on, let me get my camera right. You know, I'm a camera hog. When you hear my voice and seeing my face, that means that you are favored and it's time to work. It's time to serve. I've got a special, special person in my life. At one point, I thought that running in the darkness was my entertainment. And then I had a thump. Boom! I hit a wall. And that wall redirected me because my God, my higher power, had something else in store for me. I didn't wake up saying, hey, I want to be this. I woke up around people and I dropped my guard, not blaming anyone, not shaming anyone, and I decided I wanted to try something new. So I've got my superhero on the couch. His name is Mr. Byron. Oh, one thing I'm missing, Mr. Byron. Let me get this theme music. What in the world? We're going to play this theme music by Black Goldy Da Mac, Moving Southern Style, produced by Snow with no W. Where is my music? Mr. Byron, while the instruments and the band is getting right, would you please introduce yourself, sir?
Well, first of all, Howard, it's a privilege to be here today. And my name is Byron W. And never thought that I would be on somebody's podcast. But again, it is a privilege to be here. You know, when I sent you that text message the other day, I said I was determined. I said, you know, I'm going to connect with this dude. I said, we're going to go to lunch or something because of the number of times that I'm in out of Jackson all the time. So, again, it's a real pleasure.
Hey.
Man, I believe we get prize in here today. This man started out with me. When did they allow you to come over to the center and have a sit down?
Well, maybe your memory might be a little bit better than mine. I was telling someone the other day that I have an extremely long spot for Harbor House.
Okay.
Harbor House saved my life. And when I got started on this journey, I had some of those nonsense sponsors that said we support me. One of them was to go over out to Harbor House and tell my, as we call it here, the Jackson recovery community, tell my life story. In Chicago, they call it D, but down here it's my story. And it was important as a means of beginning the journey of helping other people. So I've done that many times at the primary treatment center out there on I-55 South as well as the second.
We got it by the spirits with the power of the tongue. I'm on the inside looking out, stay on the outside looking in. Keep it going, they don't exploit, call them family, call them friends. You pursue it, you can do it, show love, confidence. Life is hard, but it's better, and it comes with some lessons. Mental power for an hour,
we can make this real. Because when this brother stepped into a room, I was in a room full of us, a room full of addicts. And I'm like, oh shit, he coming up. What the hell he got to tell us? Because I thought I was running stuff. I didn't realize that I wasn't running nothing but my mind, running myself right back up in the street. So when you walk into a room, and you see a bunch of us in the room,
get off the couch. Reach one, teach one, community strong.
That's my engineer. Let me play the music first. Black Goldy Da Mac. I gotta play it one more time. Let me see if I can play it one more time. Look like this is our theme music right here. Community conversation.
Unity, love, and peace.
Community conversation.
Community. Hey, everybody. Hey, something to say. say. Listen, listen. Hey, 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 we got something to say. Listen. Hey, 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 better get off the couch. Get off the couch. Reach one, teach one, community strong. Hey, 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 we got something to say. Hey, 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 we got something to say.
Sundays, 10:30. Also, this 1 o'clock. We got mayoral candidate Mr. Patrice.
With the brother Coach Abasi. Superheroes, conversation about the real. They try to keep it clean, but let's express how you feel.
Community conversation. Sundays and Thursdays.
We all in the same, they won't change a better day. The prophet of the
Got my guy, BYRON in the studio, Visions Unlimited Studios with a Z.
One the old and the young. We got it by the spirits with the power of the tongue. I'm on the inside looking out, they on the outside looking in. Keep it cordial, don't explore. They call them family, call them friends. You pursue it, you can do it, show love, count your bliss. Life is hard, but it's fair, and it comes with some lessons. Mental power for an hour, with some knowledge come to college. Important people, different topics, not that daily garbage gossip. Hey, 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 we got something to say.
Hey, hey,
Hey, we got something to say. Hey, 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 better get off the couch. Get off the couch. Reach one, teach one, community strong. Hey, 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 we got something to say.
hey,
We got something to say. Hey, 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 better get off the couch. Reach one, teach one, community strong.
Man, we just loving on community. No blaming, no shaming. No blaming and no shaming. Let me give you guys just a few rules of what we got going on. People say, well, you don't ask the hard questions. You don't do this, you don't do that. Well, hopefully I inspire you to get your eye. That way you can do the things that you enjoy doing. So let me just give you an insight, a little light to community conversation. Inspired, if you'll look behind that sheet there, sir. Behind your, yes, sir. Just raise it up for me. I'm gonna let my superhero read off a little bit for us. Go right ahead, sir, and let us know. Oh, Community Strong Fort Jackson MS Community Conversation. We're broadcasting live from Visions with the Z Unlimited Studios, 601-937-5671. Be sure to reach out, connect with us, so you can come on the couch and share your story. So we're going to start with our Knowing Community Now, sir. Go right ahead.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, people, persons, individuals, events, opportunities, organizations, agencies, businesses, movements, family, community is family, church, school, a university.
Is there a word that you can add there, sir? Anything we're missing?
I think you got pretty much covered right there.
All right. Now we're going to go down to our purpose. Would you please share with our viewing and listening audience our purpose?
Inform, educate, inspire, stimulate, engage through sharing and conversation, reflecting, genuine love for community, emphasizing joy, fun, experiences, living life on life's terms, and no shaming, no blaming, energy, passion, compassion, empathy, sympathy, failures, success, lift, and steadfastness. Get up off the couch and do some work.
Get up off the couch and do some work. When you hear that, give me a reflection on get up off the couch and do some work.
Well, for me, when get up off the couch and do some work, it means to me that my higher power has some work for me to do. You know, I've learned in my current life right now to trust God, clean house, and help others. You know, using past experiences to be a vessel of good and positive messages to other people.
Powerful. My Sunday to-do list is count my blessings, let go of what I can't control. Brother Byron, I have a hard time with letting go of what I cannot control. Why do I have a hard time not letting go of what I can't control?
Well, Howard, I think the whole thing behind letting go, learning to have acceptance of situations as they are. We can get real here, right?
Oh, sir, please do. Pull the mic just a little bit closer, because I don't want somebody out there needs some of this serving this morning.
Okay. Having acceptance for things as they are, things that I can't control, and that's probably where you're having your problems at, is being able to do that. you got to get out of the way.
Cause I'll fuck it up.
Yeah.
I'll tear up some
Well,
stuff.
You know, when we're out there, you know, doing our due and everything, we're just running rampant, running riot. No discipline. Don't care about nothing. Nobody. Just it's all about me, me, me. You know, and that went for me. That went on for a very long time. You know, and you know, I being out there on them streets, getting towed up out of the frame. You know, I could talk endlessly about. Some of the life-threatening experiences that I got myself into while on that journey.
Yes, sir.
You know, and I can honestly say I'm grateful to be on a different journey now, and using those negative experiences that we actually turn into positives to help other people.
Serving.
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 You know, to bring them over to the fold.
Yes, sir.
You know, that there is another way, a different life than the one that we were living.
We are the light. We are the demonstration of going through the process.
And it absolutely is a process.
It's a process.
You know, and I can honestly say that I've never been more grateful for the concept of one day at a time or 24 hours a day as that I am now, because it is a process, you know, and I only have to do this process one day at a time.
And I can't even, you know, I'm still mastering. I'm behind you, so I'm managing one moment at a time.
Well, you know, I've learned that sometimes I've had to, you know, depending on the situation, let's start with the first 4 hours of the day.
Okay.
Then we'll work on the next 4 hours. Sometimes that 24-hour concept for me has to be broken up into different segments.
Okay.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
You know, as long as that you know, long as I'm not getting run over by the train, you know, and that's how you do that.
Right. Because I'm a train wreck pulling up in the port. I'm tearing up. I'm a crash dummy. I'm ready to get dummied out. My Sunday to-do list: count my blessings, let go of what I can't control, practice kindness. Reflect on that one for me. Practice kindness.
Well, you know what? Being kind to others before I got sober was never one of my strong points.
Right.
You know, because it was all about selfishness and self. You know, I grew up as a fat, chunky kid in South Central L.A. And
you was in California?
I was born and raised in L.A.
So you've done L.A. and Chicago?
And Chicago, right.
Wow. Wow.
So I grew up as a fat, chunky kid with low self-esteem. So I was very used to people being unkind to me,
okay.
You know, and then, you know, the natural inclination is to learn how to be unkind to other people
wow.
as a defense mechanism,
okay.
You know, so that was, you know, before I got sober, that was the norm, you know,
okay.
And then afterwards, you know, you learn that those are just not the things to do.
So, Brother Brian, you saying that because that was poured into you, you learned it was instilled in you how to pour it into someone else.
Well, absolutely. You know, and then when you're out in those streets and everything, being unkind, you know, was another defense mechanism, you know, as a means of survival. You know, you had to make sure that you weren't getting punked out on the street. So you had to put on the many, as you're perfectly probably well aware, the many masks
yes,
that
sir.
we had to wear.
The helmets,
you know,
yeah.
Yes, in that environment.
And I haven't heard that term in a while, being punked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you was coming up short. Somebody about to take advantage of you.
Right.
Okay.
You know, and growing up in South Central L.A. and then living on the street in Chicago, you know, that was a very real concept.
Man, South Central L.A. Wow. We got more in common than I think we have.
Right.
Yes, sir. I lived out in Glendale for about 10 years.
Oh,
but
I know that.
Yeah, but I journeyed over, you know, into the city.
Right.
Yeah, I'm looking for that fun.
Right.
Is what I call it.
And you probably
fun.
wasn't gonna find it in Glendale.
Not at all. Not at all.
Right.
Another one on my to-do list is listen to my heart. What does that mean when it says listen? What is your relationship to listen to my heart?
Well, for me, listening to my heart first involves for me to I need to shut my thinking down. You know, for me, when I think too much and get inside my head with my thoughts, you know, I have a tendency in kind of going back to what you were talking about before about things you can't control. I tend to delve into what I like to call stinking thinking.
Ooh. Wait. Slow down. For my people that really listening, we call it what?
Stinking thinking.
Stinking thinking. I got squirrels running around in my head.
Man, stinking thinking is usually takes place when things aren't going my way. You know, people aren't responding to me the way I think they should be, or someone's not acting the way or saying what I think they should be, that I want to get involved in stinking thinking. And it's a very good possibility that I'm not able to hear God speaking to me when I'm in that mode.
Okay.
You know, so it's important that, you know, in order to, you know, to be able to speak from the heart or to minister from the heart, that I clear my mind so that God can, you know, deliver these messages to me, through me.
Stinking thinking on Community Conversations. Stinking thinking. All right. And last but not least on my to-do list, just breathe. Give me some just breathe.
Just breathe. And I'm going to do it. You know, and that's actually a relaxation technique, if you're not aware of it, to just breathe in and breathe out, relax. And that's, to me, that's part of letting go.
Okay.
You know, the letting go, you know, is another form of surrendering. You know, when I let go, I'm getting out of the way. I'm getting my thinking out of the way, and I'm allowing something, probably a power greater than myself, to come in and provide some direction.
So we reflected on one of the first words I asked you. I said, Brother Byron, please send me 4 words that reflect our process. And we all have our own 4, our own 6, our own 8, our own 10. And your first word was surrender. So did we capture the surrender in our dialogue right now? Are we capturing the word surrender? Would you like to elaborate a little bit more on surrender?
Well, I'm going to elaborate. We did capture a little bit, but I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on surrender, you know, and it's a word that I learned when I grew up going to church. So we heard all these things going to church, but who was paying attention, right? You know, and the day that I got sober was the day that I surrendered. That was, and when I say surrender, that means I decided it was time to get out of God's way.
Okay.
You know, because if I didn't make that decision to go ahead and surrender and get out of the way, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you now.
Right.
So you know, and as I'm going on my life's journey moving forward, I still have to surrender. I still have to surrender my thoughts, my thinking, surrender the things that I don't have any control over, so that I can, you know, maximize as much peace and serenity in my life as possible. So surrendering is letting go, getting out of the way.
Okay.
In a nutshell.
All right. The next one we've got is called Trust God. So, Lord, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass you some things, and we're going to read them, and then I just want to get a little reflection. I met Brother Byron 20 years ago at the Harbor House, and he came in to serve, to share, to pour love, and to scare the hell out of us. Because you never know. We know where we are in our darkness. I'm not going to say madness, darkness. And you never know what word, what sentence, what paragraph, what touch is going to start bringing you more closer to the light. So let me give you this. And our next word is going to be trust God. If you read that for us and give us a reflection, please, sir.
Thank you, God, for carrying me through all the hard times and never leaving me. Amen.
Feed my spirit, sir.
So, and, you know, I have to thank God every day. You know, when I finally did surrender, you know, and the way to a better life, or doorway to a better life, which was always there, but because of my thinking, I wasn't able to see it. You know, I was put in a place where I had a moment of clarity, and the opportunity came to get out of the way. You know, and now on reflection, when I look back at my life over the last 22 years, if God could deliver me from that hopeless state of mind that I was living in before then I know that he can take care of all my problems. And so I have to trust him.
Wow.
You know, unconditionally.
Wow.
And so far, Howard, that's been working.
when they put me on the scale when I came in the first day, that they do the weigh thing, and brother Benny, is that his name? Was Benny there when you?
Benny, yeah, he was there.
Yeah,
Benny did my intake.
Hey, he told me, he said, because I wasn't ready to come in, but I knew I had to come in because I was looking at a little time. He told me, you the worst kind of drug addict. I'm like, dude, I'm not even a drug addict. What are we talking about? He said, you marijuana smokers, y'all think y'all don't have a problem. I said, I'm like, this dude is talking to me like this. Can you reflect on that?
Oh man, well, let me tell you. When I first came, I came to Jackson, and this is the direction of my higher power.
Okay.
I came to Mississippi,
I need to put the tissue box.
I don't need tissue yet,
okay,
but I
right.
was facing 4 to 10 years in prison.
I was looking at 3, but go ahead. You had the 4 to 10. You checked the box for 4 to 10.
After surrendering and sitting in Cook County Jail, and my case was dismissed. I was dispatched to Jackson.
Okay.
Oh, but man, when I came here, man, I remember being out on that porch at Harbor House, and I saw all the guys. I was sitting out in the front waiting for Mr. Benny to check me in. I saw all the guys on the porch smoking, man, right then and there. I didn't like nobody. I didn't want to be here.
Put that to the side.
Huh?
I put that paper to the side.
Yeah, I didn't want to be here. And, I'm from Chicago. Man, I brought my up north attitude down here in the whole 9 yards. So I can definitely relate to that.
And I was sitting on the step as you enter. And all I could think about was getting back to Atlanta. Like, man, let's hurry up and get this over with.
Right.
Can you imagine me saying, let's hurry up and get these 20 years over with when I'm really about to do the program, but I've been on the journey for 20 years, but I'm like, hey, man, let's hurry up and get this over with.
Right.
And was Mr. Chris there when you came?
Yes, he was.
Mr. Chris walked over and told me, he said, I know you from somewhere. And I'm like, oh, you don't know me. Now, unless I done serve you or something. No, you don't know me. And I could see the gentleman on the porch. And I'm like, damn, is that where I'm headed? So it wasn't a acceptance at that point.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Howard, well, for me, it was a lot of fear. A lot of fear. I had made that decision, and one thing I can tell you, when God is giving directions, I may not always like the trajectory, the pathway, the twists and turns that he is, when he's leading, but back to that comment about trust God, I've learned to trust it. And man, I wasn't sure. I didn't want to be here. I didn't know these people. They didn't know me. I got called Yankee and all kind. Oh, it was
right.
awful, And a lot of it was my own thinking, because
right.
you have to remember, I had probably been sober about 30 days by the time I got 60 days by the time I got to Jackson. Ain't much changed in 30 days. The only
right.
thing was I wasn't locked up anymore.
Right.
The journey was just beginning.
And I had 3 days.
Okay.
And I knew that I did not, and I was advised that going through a program would assist me in going to court. But then again, I had in my spirit, let's hurry up.
Get this over with.
So I can get back to doing what I was doing.
Right.
Okay, hold on. Talk to me on that one.
Shall I read it first?
Please, sir.
Every struggle in your life has shaped you into the person you are today. Be thankful for the hard times. They can only make you stronger. Now, I have a good story for that.
Go right ahead, sir. Feed me, please.
I have a good story for that. So, I'm in finance as a profession, and, I work treatment jobs, for a good number of years. The program never really moved fast enough for me.
Yes, sir.
And then, I'm used to the money that could be made up north, and these folks down in Mississippi didn't want to pay no money,
Right,
so I had a couple of treatment jobs, but after 6 years of sobriety, an opportunity came up that helped me to learn to be humble. I was hired at Comcast as the manager of the accounting department for the whole Jackson, Mississippi market.
Okay. Comcast was big time back in them days.
Big time, yeah.
We're talking about the early 2000s.
Now, it's like, hey, okay, Lord, now we cooking now.
We rolling again.
We rolling. We getting back to where we was. But I'm going to tell you this. When I got in there and I had a staff of 8 people, man, I immediately became intimidated when I found out that my counterparts in some of the other markets were CPAs, MBAs, and I had none of those credentials. And then I began to question, why am I here? And I found out how much about accounting I did not know. And let's put it like this. There were several days where I told myself, you need to pack your bags and go home because you're way over your head.
Okay.
You don't know what you're doing. And I remember God saying, stay where I put you.
Wow.
You know, and I managed to learn that job on the job, and that made me into the finance professional that I am today. But I just remember telling myself, you know, why don't you clean your desk out and go home, and because you don't know what you're doing, you know. And when God told me to stay there and do that, it made me a much stronger person, you know. And today, you know, I pride myself in being able to help other up and coming professionals now because of that journey.
When I left the Harbor House, unemployed, had left everything that I was associated with over in Atlanta, making pretty good money, about to move downtown to assist in operating a dental company with 2 locations. Was working on the 3rd one. Just did a commercial. And I decided that I still wanted to play in the madness. So I ended up losing that opportunity, was staying in a hotel. And I remember Brother Chris asking me, he said this to me in the circle. I was the first one, you know, when you come in the door, you're the first one to the right.
Right.
You got 25 people. I think our circle was 25.
Right.
Okay. And then the one closest to the door on the left is leaving.
Right.
And he said, brother, where you staying? He set me up. So I'm giving my information. And then he said, where's your stuff now? I said, well, it's somewhere between here and a hotel room. He said, well, you're homeless. I said, no, I'm not homeless. You got me fucked up. I'm not homeless. He said, you're homeless. And you really need to focus on the fact that, he said, so where are you going when you leave here? I said, I know it won't be a hotel room, because I said, how long I got here? He gave me a time frame. I said, I got to get my stuff out of that room. And then he made me realize, well, if you go live with somebody, more likely it's going to be a parent. That means that you're homeless. You're homeless. So I came to terms with that. But I ended up getting after I graduated from the Harbor House, I ended up getting a $7 an hour job. And Byron, I was so happy for the job. And I walked around in the clinic. I got back because I was working on being a dental assistant. And I went in, and I want to give a shout out to Earl Thomas. He was doing a reentry program here in the city of Jackson. He was like my parole officer, my probation officer. And I mean, he really stayed in me. And he spoke up for me to get me in, $7 an hour. And I was so happy that I wasn't locked up. I was so happy.
I know you were, but, you know, now that you mention that, I want to back up before the Comcast job, because my first job, see, God knows what he's doing, Howard, you know, so there was lots of cleaning and pruning that needed to be done.
So now we're on clean house.
Yeah. Once we got off of the drugs and alcohol, then we got to the root of the real problem, us as individuals.
Yes, sir.
You know, now when I went to secondary at Harbor House, you know, where you get a little bit more freedom, you're allowed to go to work. You know, people were going out and they were looking for jobs.
That was on Capitol Street.
On Capitol Street.
Right.
Me, I'm in there in the office faxing resumes for accounting jobs that I wasn't nowhere near prepared for, and they weren't coming, you know, and I was sitting at the house. And I remember my secondary counselor, Mr. Victor, we were sitting in the back, and he said, you can't rest on your laurels.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, when he means resting, and you see, when you get lazy in this program of recovery,
right,
you know, you run the risk of being back to where you were if you don't continue to do the things that we were taught to do.
And let me ask, were you 6 months in by now in the program?
Oh, I was probably about 4 months into 4 months into the program.
Okay.
You know, and I finally decided my first job was at the McDonald's on Gallatin and 20 as the maintenance man, making $5.25 an hour.
Brother Byron, why are we so excited about that first? We don't care what kind of work it is. Why are we so excited and engaged in that first below our entrance job?
Well, for me, it was a matter of getting humble. See, I wasn't grateful and I wasn't humble. And I didn't like I wasn't grateful for that job, but I needed some money. I had to pay my rent. It's getting ready to put me out.
Right.
You know, and here's the thing, Howard. You know, working on those character defects, that all comes into play.
Yes, sir.
You know, I had a knack for being known for being, you know, a little uppity, a little arrogant. You know, and I told you I brought my Chicago attitude down to Mississippi, and you know they didn't like that. So the manager of that McDonald's was a 27-year-old kid.
Wow.
Okay, and I'm 46, right? You know, and man, I did not like the way he was talking to me. But it reminded me of when I was 22 years old and I was the store manager of a McDonald's in L.A. for the first black franchisee in the L.A. market. Okay. And I saw myself, there you go right there. Man, I saw myself in that little arrogant dude, and that really helped me. It helped me to start learning to, you know, come back down to earth, to start being able to recognize and looking at some corrective action that I could take in my own being and my own personality, you know, so that me being in that McDonald's job making $5.25 an hour is like you know, like they tell us in the program, you right where you need to be.
When I was in the Harbor House, I had an 18 and 19-year-old telling me what I needed to do. And the way to now, and I'm thinking, wait, Brother Byron, I was 42. I was 42 when I finally had that train wreck.
Yeah.
And I've got a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old giving me instructions, because the way it works at the Harbor House program, first one in, whoever's in before you is leadership.
Yeah, the first person in the first chair is senior peer. That's
right.
what they call it.
That's on the left-hand side.
Right.
So anything 1, 2, I'm on the right-hand side, so that's number 25. So I'm number 1. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way up to 25 gets to call shots on me.
That's right. That's right. That was rough, wasn't it?
Man, it was something else, because I've got a 19-year-old calling shots, telling me what to do, telling me when to move.
I had the same issue with a little 23-year-old with a little southern drawl telling me what I should and shouldn't be doing.
Right.
You know, and I actually called him out in the circle.
Right.
You know, and I actually told the guy, you ain't old enough or smart enough to be telling me shit. That's flat out what I told him. But when you look at that, Howard, it looks to where our state of mind was at that time.
Exactly.
You know, and they tell us when we come in here, we need to be willing to do anything.
Yes, sir.
You know, to get our lives on track. And I found out that included listening to a 19-year-old.
Same thing for myself. E.G. Ego, one of my guys that had been through the program several times, he said that ego stood for edging God out.
Absolutely.
Give me some feedback on that one.
Well, I'm going to put it succinctly like this. Edging God out means that I'm doing one of these numbers. I'm easing back up on that throne.
Right.
Okay, and I'm deciding that I'm, you know what, I know I surrender, but, you know, I got it from here now.
Right.
I'm going to take control of things again. And I can honestly say that's a recipe for another train wreck.
Right. You may not get caught for everything you do, but you will pay for everything you have done.
Well, the lumps will come. You know, and see, the wonderful thing about my higher power is that he will allow you to bump your head. You know, he'll allow you to bump your head, and then you'll how when you see rambunctious little, you know, we were like little rambunctious little kids. You see these little rambunctious little kids running wild, and all of a sudden they finally hit something and fall down. And they go, "Mommy!"
Right.
Well, when you know what, that's what we did when we finally surrendered. You know, we bumped our head, that train wreck, and then we called Daddy.
Am
I right?
Come make it right.
There you go.
Come make it right. And when my father came to, when we went to court, I don't know whether it was, after court was over with, I felt like some game had been run in the courtroom. I didn't have anything on the game except face and ass, but I felt like some game had been run, and my father looked me in the face, very quiet gentleman, and he said, I'm not coming again. I'm not coming again. And that really stuck with me, that here it is, I'm out here in all this wildness, madness, this darkness. He hasn't enjoyed any, look at me using the word enjoyed, he hasn't participated or partaken in any of those activities. And here it is, he's assisting me in getting out of this situation. All right, got another one for you.
Okay, I asked life, why are you so difficult? Life smiled and said, you people never appreciate easy things. Ooh, that's
Read it one more time, brother BW.
I asked life, why are you so difficult? Life smiled and said, you people never appreciate easy things.
And even today, I don't appreciate it being quiet.
Well, you know what I've learned? Life is difficult because I make it difficult. You know how they talk in the program. They said keep it simple, stupid,
Keep it simple.
right? But I have learned that, man, when my thinking gets in the way, I can complicate and make things real difficult. And sometimes we don't appreciate easy things. Sometimes we don't appreciate anything. But I think over the years I've learned. Gratitude and acceptance, helps breed some peace and serenity in your life. And then you start learning to appreciate stuff.
Okay. African proverb. A cat that dreams of becoming a lion must lose its appetite for rats. A cat that dreams of becoming a lion must lose its appetite for rats, meaning to achieve greatness, you must let go of old habits that could hold back your progress.
Absolutely. Elaborate on that, right?
Yes, sir. That's your role today, sir.
Well, I can definitely use my my past life drinking and drugging as a perfect example. Because when I was involved in that, it was, this netherworld of literally unsavory people, unsavory living, and literally rats and roaches, in the places I lived and so forth, And in order to have the life that I have today, or to be that lion that you were talking about.
Yes, sir.
It required me to trade up and get rid of those things in my life so that, it's like an old saying we used to say back in the day, how can you fly like an eagle if you're soaring with turkeys?
If you're walking with turkeys.
Right.
Yeah, if you gobble, gobble, gobble,
like
gobble,
you-
gobble,
you
gobble,
can't-
gobble.
How can you soar like an eagle if you're walking with turkeys?
Right.
So, it's when you mention that incident about your dad and
Right.
everything, it reminded me of when I got arrested on my sobriety date. And I guess when I finally made that phone call to my father,
Right.
I dreaded making that phone call.
Gotcha.
I had been in Chicago for 10 years, and Dad kind of, he knew what was going on, but, I figure, okay, he probably feels now I know where you're at. But he worked behind the scenes to,
Wow.
to help facilitate my release out of jail that sent me down to Jackson.
My dad said the same thing. I said, well, he said, I never knew where you were. One minute you was in Louisiana, the next minute you was in California, you might be in Arizona. And I never knew the toll that takes on a parent. And I said, well, I was out there in the darkness and the madness. How were you able to manage that? He said, man, I said a prayer for you. I had so many other people that I was responsible for, as well as in the household, as well as at the work site. And I increased a little insurance policy, made sure that it was a little extra on that.
And Howard, I understand. Like my mother, bless her soul, she's passed away 3 years ago, but she saw me sober for 19 years before she left this earth.
Okay.
I was the tornado through that house when that ugly journey started back in the late 1980s. I can remember this incident where my mother went over to the church with a bottle of olive oil and had it blessed because.
She's gonna put that on you.
And she came home and we got on our knees because she was determined that she was going to exorcise that crack demon out of me.
Wow.
And she finally realized that she was going to have to let me go and turn it over to God, and say a prayer, and it was hard for her to do, but she somehow knew that I would come out on the other end, as you see that both of us did do.
We got something else in common. My mother ascended into being an ancestor about 4 years ago, maybe 3 to 4 years ago. And she, too, as well, had an opportunity to see me in my right state of mind.
For a lengthy period of time.
For a lengthy period of time.
And I got to return. took care of my mother while she was ill. I came down here, you know, God put me in a place where I have a job where, you know, I can travel.
Yes, sir.
And I was able to come down here and help take care of my mother while she was ill. You know, and it was a real privilege to be able to do that.
This is my May 22nd, 2005. I started a little journal, and I'm going to read a few little inserts so you can kind of give me a reflection of what I'm going through and where I am. This is May 22nd, so that means that I must have gone in on May 23rd. And you've shared, why is it so important for us to hold on to dates of our journey? You got in on me one time because I said, you said, man, you coming up on such and such. I said, man, I don't keep up with that stuff.
Well, you know, Howard, I still hear that, you know, and your date is about a month before mine, because my date's June 23rd.
Wow.
It was June 23rd, 2003, is that I came and made the decision. Let's just say that's the day higher power snatched me up out of the fire.
Me as well.
Okay. And the reason why that date is, and I remember to this day, every event that happened that day that led up to that. The reason why that is important is that it was the day that my life began over again. It was the day that I was pulled. I say it was the day that I was pulled out of the fire, and my feet were removed from sinking sand and put on solid ground, and you know, and nudged into the right direction. And I have to remember that day, because they tell me as soon as you forget that day or the importance of that day, you know, you're bound to have to repeat it again.
Wow. Well, you should have get in my ass about that. You said, no, don't forget your dates. Hold on to your dates.
And you'll always hear people say, well, I don't keep up with that and everything. And it's like BS. It's important. To me, it's a day of celebration, because it was the day that we've been given the opportunity to have a second life.
That's true. That's true. When I went into the back of the the Rankin County facility, I'm thinking I'm going in.
You were in Rankin County?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
yes, sir.
man.
I came through Pelahatchie, and that's when I had my little train wreck. And I'm thinking that they're going to put me in a room, a holding tank, so I can burn out. It don't work like that. They took me in the room in the closet where the clothes were. I got a pair. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Oh, man, you finna get out of that. We got to get out. We got to get that what you got on. So they gave me the little jumpsuit. They gave me the slippers, and they gave me my numbers. And I was like, man, and I had a tear so big shit that when it hit the floor, my feet were wet.
Well, you know, I have to laugh at that, because, you know, when I got arrested on my sobriety date, it was a law and order type thing. You know, I actually sold dope to an undercover Chicago police detective, and they were waiting for me. So when I made the exchange, about 7 cars pulled up. But I want to show you how God works.
Okay.
When they took me down to the local lockup, you know, that I was in front of about 3 big corn-fed looking detectives, scary looking, asking me where I was getting that dope from. And when I started lying, they asked me, you want to play games in here? And I said, no. And they said, we can play games up in here. And I knew they were serious. But one of them said to me, would you like some help? And I said, yeah, I'd like to get some help. And I thought they were getting ready to let me go.
My guy said,
and they locked me up, as they should have.
Right. My guy said, I want to save your life. And I said, well, shit, throw it out the window. And let me continue on. He said, no, I really want to save your life.
But God wasn't through with the journey yet. Because I ended up going down to Cook County Jail, where I liken it to one of my favorite Christmas stories, A Christmas Carol. Scrooge saw the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. And if you remember that last one, where that Grim Reaper showed up, and in the end, you know, he led Scrooge to that grave and pointed to it and said, if you don't change your ways, this is where you headed. Man, when I was in Cook County Jail, that's what I saw. I saw that, you know, and the guy was saying, this is where the rubber meets the road, to separate the men from the boys. And what you seeing up in here, this is what it's going to be at. Make a decision.
Real deal.
Make a decision.
On May 22nd, 2005, I journaled this. Could not sleep, anxious about getting started with the rehab program. How can I be anxious? Because I want to get it started so I can do what? So I can get back to doing what I was doing. Spent the night watching Hotel Rwanda. Have you ever seen the movie Hotel Rwanda?
I have not.
Fantastic movie. Just a lot of emotion. Said my last farewell to a few people. Called my father to wish him a happy Monday. He was actually en route to bring me to the program, to take me to the program. Actually spoke with my grandmother. So that's May 22nd, 2005. What was going on in your mind, your spirit, the night before going? Can you recall?
Well, I do remember this. After I was released from jail and brought home, my father said to me, "We're leaving in the morning." And we are? Yeah, we're going to Jackson.
So you're in Chicago?
I'm in Chicago.
Okay.
And so my father was going to drive me down here. And I said, "Oh, we're driving?" He said, "I want to make sure you get there."
Okay.
You know, and I was ready, though. I convinced him to let me get on the train and come down here, but my mind was, I need to do this.
Right.
I need to do this. I was ready.
And I had made a pact with myself that if I ever got, because I got caught over a period of years.
Right.
But that yes sir, no sir, that mannerism, I was allowed to continue on. And when I got caught, I was ecstatic because I had to hurry up and get in before I change. I'm still thinking I'm controlling something.
Right.
But I had to hurry up and get in. They said, "Well, we don't have a bed right now." And I'm like, "Daddy, I got to get in. I got to get in." Okay. The check-in process, this must be the next day. The check-in process was unorganized. Who am I? Judging a process.
Right.
Lazy. Jackson mentality for progress is the worst. Much apathy. Then I said this: the joy of Joshua fills my heart and brings tears to my soul. This is my son. I think he's about 2000. He's 3 years old. Just thinking of him moves me to emotional unrest. 12:15, already been checked for fraternizing with a fellow resident, a female.
Oh, yeah. You know they didn't allow that.
No, they didn't. But I'm running my game. I'm running my game. This was at 12:15. The tears are rolling. It's starting to set in now, Brother Byron. The tears are rolling. I resent having to be in this position. Here I go. Here's the darkness talking to me. Honestly, I can do this on my own.
Right.
How does that, and I had made a pact that if I got caught and I couldn't, if every time I got caught, it was if I get caught. Now, I've been caught, but if I get caught and I couldn't pay my way out, it was time for me to stop. What is talking to me when I said, honestly, I can do this on my own? I've been out there for 20-some years.
Well, that's Mr. Stupid talking again. That's that committee up here speaking to you again, trying to convince you, that you can do this on your own. Well, we tried that ourselves. We tried that back in 1990, and we weren't ready for the gift of sobriety. And so I'm going to go back and I'm going to be out there for another 12 years.
Right.
And that's basically what it is. So when I first came into the program, I thought that the AA thing and these people in here, there's too much laughter in here.
Right.
You're all too happy and you're talking about your experiences and laughing about it. You're full of shit. You're smoking when you're leaving here.
Right.
But that was
you smoking inside your mind while you're in there.
And that was just an excuse for me to go back and do what I really wanted to do.
Gotcha.
But after, if you've been out there 15, 16, 17 years and it ain't working, it's just like, wrong answer. Your way's not working.
To beat fear, you must go through it, not around it. To beat fear, you must go through it, not around it.
Yeah, you do. That's kind of like facing your fears.
And we're still cleaning house.
A lot of people think that you're punk if they think surrendering is punking out or giving up but But do you know that there's power in powerlessness?
Break that down for me. There's power.
There's power in acknowledging powerlessness.
Okay.
There's power in acknowledging powerlessness. Because what that means is I have made the decision that I can't do this on my own and I need some help.
Right.
You know, do you know how much strength it takes to be able to do that? That's a strong person. That's a strong person that's able to do that. When you're able to acknowledge that I can't do this on my own and I need some help.
Progress is not achieved by luck or accident, but by working on yourself daily. Epictetus. Progress is not achieved by luck or accident, but by working on yourself daily. Is there a belief that the higher power was saying, hey, I'm going to give you an opportunity to see where you are, where you're going, and what you could be?
Yeah. You know, and you know, that involves, you know, as you're going through life's journey, there's it's progress and not perfection. You know, so there are days when I might take a couple of steps backwards and take a couple of steps move forward, but always with the aim of moving forward.
The feeling of no control. This is still this is my first day of entry. The feeling of no control, having to ask permission. Having to ask permission, Brother Byron.
Well, Howard, I don't know. What do you mean by having to ask permission?
Here we go. Can I do this? Can I do that? You know, when you're in the Harbor House, you're just not walking around free will.
Right, but you understand why that was, though, don't you?
Teach me why was that?
Well, if you remember that there were all they called it, what did Thomas call it? Consequences.
You got to pay for it.
But it took me a minute. Room restriction, no use of the telephone, you know, all those kinds of things. And I'm thinking, I'm a grown-ass man, and you up here telling me I can't use the phone and this, that, and the other. But I realized, Howard, that it was learning to put discipline back into your life, because when I came in the door, I had absolutely no discipline whatsoever. I did what I want, said what I want, and how I want. That's how I ended up with a spot in that room.
They didn't allow us to have access, I think, for the first 7 days, no telephone, no TV. And I remember somebody in there kind of having a moment where they was challenging the system. They said, hell, you wasn't trying to call your mama and your daddy and your baby mama and all this kind of stuff when you was out there on the streets. Now all of a sudden you got to check in.
You got all the stuff you got to do,
you
right?
got to tell them you love them. Hell, you wasn't loving them when you was still in the
man, well, they was rough, wasn't they?
Yeah.
You know, my counselor was Greg.
Yep. That was mine too.
Yeah, Greg.
Shout out, acknowledge to Greg.
Yeah.
He ride that ass.
Yeah. They
annoying.
Man, they were rough. They were rough, you know, and I miss Greg to this day. You know, and man, them guys, I actually saw Chris recently because he moved back to Jackson. Okay. You know, and when I think about, you know, the impact that they had on my life and where I'm at.
Oh, they were dug in.
Man, yeah. Harbor House was no joking back in those days.
They were dug in.
You know.
They said, here, you didn't care about the news and TVs here. You was walking out the room with the TV in your hand.
Right.
I'm like, why? So for the first week that you're there, you have no outside contact. And I think it's very important because you really need to have a reckoning and a meeting with yourself, because this is a process.
Absolutely. You know, when I on my first day after I met with Mr. Benny, they took me in the back and they had me sit down behind the nurse's station where I got this view of, you know, everybody going in and out of their rooms.
I got the same view.
But while I sat there, what they did do was brought me a big book.
Okay.
They gave me, I still have that big book. Cover coming off and everything, but I still have that big book. I have no idea
what mine is. But
I have that big book to this day, you know, and they gave me a 24-hour-a-day meditation book.
I got that. That was beautiful.
And they took away, my mom had given me some CDs and a few things. They took it. They said, you don't need none of that. Man, I got pissed off. I said, my mama gave me this.
Right.
You know, but that cutting off of the outside was absolutely important, you know, to minimize distraction, you know, so that you could begin this journey.
So you don't need any distractions. None whatsoever. Can I do this? Can I do that? I'm no longer in control. And I've got control, like underline, underline, underline. The word addict, it just simply does not apply to me. This is me writing this my first day. The word addict, it just simply does not apply to me. Then who the hell does it apply to? I'm able to stop whenever I'm able to stop whatever I start. I wish I were in Atlanta. This area depresses my inner spirit. Could be worse. I could be locked down with no sense of hope. I'm embarrassed about the money my family is investing in me. I'm flooding. Let me start with the first one. I am able to stop whatever I start. What does that sound like, Brother Byron?
I'm running the show. I'm in control.
I'm in control. So maybe if I go stand in front of one of the counters and say, look, man, I'm good.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. I wish I were in Atlanta. What does that mean?
Well, I don't want to be here. I remember I saw a Greyhound bus with the sign that said to Chicago on it, and I want to run and jump on it.
Right.
It's kind of like going back, even though it was not good for us, going back to what was familiar.
Right. Where I was comfortable.
Right.
And Brother Byron, I got to a point where I stopped sitting. I call it the porch of misery, because the guys are out there reliving their moments. And I stopped going out on the porch because I was looking at, is that 55? Is that the road?
Right.
The highway?
That's right. That's 55.
55. And all I could think about was all the things I have done in addiction, in my process, in my darkness, traveling back and up that road. And we didn't have the gate and the wall up that they have now. So you literally could jump. I think they had a little bar or something that would close off the driveway.
Right. That was it.
And guys was jumping. The first day I was there, I had, I think, 3 or 4 guys come up to me and introduce themselves. And before the night, those guys had jumped and left.
Oh, and you know, there was a story behind that. You know, I don't know if you're aware that I went back. I worked at Harbor House as a house manager for a couple of years, you know, on the weekends. And there was a reason back then why there was no fence. Because if you didn't want to be here, they didn't want you there. You know, if you want to go, go. You know, they were well known saying, if you want to leave, walk out the gate, you can go. It's
they had
open.
A long line of people wanting to bed.
Right.
Some salvation.
That's
redemption.
absolutely right. If you don't want to be here, they didn't want you there.
This will not happen again. Some freedom is so good. They went well. These guys, there I go, deflecting.
Mm-hmm.
These guys,
them.
Them over there.
Yeah, not me.
Are fighting serious demons.
Oh,
not me.
Man, the arrogance.
Not me. But how dare they put me in an environment with these guys, those people?
Yeah. The arrogance and all of what you're writing there, it's permeating off that page.
It is bleeding. 2 clients quit today. So it was 2 clients quit today. That was disturbing. The night ended well, watching wrestling with the fellows. So many stories. I don't know how I was watching wrestling at first, because they don't allow us to have access to TV. I must have been cheating.
They did on the weekends when I was there.
No, this was a week, so that means that I must have been cheating.
Oh, yeah, doing something you weren't supposed to do?
Exactly.
No, now what was disturbing was watching not somebody leave, but watching somebody being walked out in handcuffs.
Right.
That was disturbing.
Okay. May 24th, not wanting to be here today. Hell, I ain't been there but a day. I've only been there one day.
Ain't nothing changed in 24 hours.
No, I'm saved.
I can say that healed. Now that feeling was probably a normal feeling for everybody.
I'm healed.
Yeah.
I'm healed. I've been here 24 hours. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go back to Atlanta.
You're fooling yourself, right?
Not wanting to be here today. These people have serious issues. You know how when we start the morning out, everybody's got to call out their name and the last initial.
Right.
And also relate to the group their drug of choice.
Right.
And man, they just tickled the hell out of me. I'm in a room, that first room right there past, where you make that left around the counter.
Right.
And I'm like, man, these guys are saying their names and they talking about the drug of choice. And it comes around to me because then I'm the last one that speaks. You come in to the right, but you're the last one to speak. And I remember them saying, And I'm, okay, there's like you. And I said, so-and-so, so-and-so. And I called out what my stuff was. I called out three things. And then I said, I'm a connoisseur.
Is that what you call it?
I call it being a connoisseur. I don't have a habit.
Right, or a problem.
Or a problem.
Right.
I'm a connoisseur. Had a decent sleep. Meditation was emotional. Everyone is pulling for the new guy. Lord, continue to work the work in each of these men's lives. I'm sitting here talking about them.
Right.
Lord, work in their lives so they can get healed.
But I'm all right.
I'm good.
Yeah, right.
I'm great. The biggest challenge has been adjusting to the fact that I have an addiction. And I believe Brother Chris told me, he said that, because the guys brought it to his attention that I wasn't cooperative in the morning circle.
Right.
And I wasn't saying addict. And I'm like, I'm not an addict. I'm just a connoisseur. So he told me to look around the circle. He said, you seem to be pretty intellectual. You know, you seem to be, you know, really holding things together. But I just want to ask a question. I got 24 other eyes looking at me. Why are you sitting in here? And it really came to terms then that, and he said, you're holding yourself up in denial. What is holding yourself up when you're in the circle? Saying that I don't have a problem. I don't have an issue.
Well, you're flat out in denial. You know, I think I kind of knew I had a problem, but, you know, while I was probably one of the biggest crackheads that you ever could have run across, you better not call me that.
Right.
Better not call me that.
Better not hear it.
There was fighting words.
Right.
You know, but, you know, that attitude is like, I don't have a problem. I'm just here, just you know, seeing what this is all about, and
Talk
you
to
know,
me.
maybe
Talk to me, big brother.
Maybe you know, maybe I got, you know, maybe I need to take a look at some things, but I don't have the problem that these folks have.
Right.
That's
right.
kind of what that's all about.
Right. I don't have a problem. I'm watching y'all.
Yeah.
I'm praying for y'all.
Yeah.
I want y'all to get it right.
I'm here because somebody suggested that maybe I should stop by, you know, so, you know, but I think I'm okay.
I'm okay.
Yeah, right.
This is day 24.
Yeah.
An inch of movement is better than a mile of intentions. An inch of movement is better than a mile of intentions.
My intentions ain't always good, Howard. You know, well, let's put it like this. I always had good intentions, but the reality of the situation was my actions weren't always good, you know. So so you said an inch of movement
is better than a mile of intention.
An inch of movement, saying that an inch of movement is better than a mile of intention is actually saying that of that inch of movement, I'm honestly trying to work on making some kind of meaningful change. You know, and if I make an inch of meaningful change, it's far better than a whole mile of a bunch of intentions of doing something right.
Right.
I don't know if that came out right, but that's how I kind of relate to that.
How long? I don't know if you did, but how long did you hold on to the coin of this has nothing to do with me? Was that 2 days, 72 hours, the first week?
No, I didn't fight that process when I came in there.
Okay.
Because you have to realize that this is my second time at the rodeo.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You know, I tried this program in 1990, and when I wasn't ready for it, and I decided to go back out there, it took me 12 years to come back in here. So between 1991 and 2003, I got my ass tore up out the frame. So when I finally, you know, after escaping 4 to 10 years in jail,
right,
our mindset was that, okay, we need to do something. Now, I'm not saying that I didn't kick, bitch, and moan and scream as I went through the process.
Yes, sir.
And put up attitude the whole 9 yards, but I was convinced that I'm not going back to where I was. I was going to move forward.
I never considered smoking weed, and it was almost like, I was out there 20 years. It was almost like every 5 years I had an encounter with cocaine. So weed was the primary, and then the cocaine was like every 5 years. I never considered smoking weed an addiction, and my self-pride of not wanting the title addict. Why was it so important for me to come to terms with the title the word, the sentence, the paragraph, addict?
Probably because of the need to understand the concept of addiction. And with addiction, it's a compulsive addictive behavior, and you can be addicted to anything.
Powerful, cunning, and
It
baffling.
doesn't matter the medication. It could be sex, it could be food, it could be a person, it could be a drug, but an addiction is an addiction.
And we're still talking on the word clean house. The other members, okay, I never considered smoking weed an addiction. I didn't put the cocaine in there. And I remember when I got locked up, because I had coke in the car. When I got locked up, we were getting down. Coming from Atlanta, we getting it on. One of the Europeans in the cell, by the time the lights came on in the cell through the window sill, he said, "Man, do your folks know you're in here?" And I'm like, "Nah." They said, "You don't belong in here." That's what the gentleman told me. He said, "You don't belong in here." I said, "Okay." And now I realize that I'm not in a holding tank, that I'm actually back in one of the pods. So it's about 20 of us in a pod. He said, "You need to call your folks. You need to get out of here." And I'm like, how in the hell am I going to call my folks? Because they know about the weed, but they don't know nothing about no cocaine. And I just could not phantom. But I called a friend. This is a collect call from a state correctional facility. And he didn't answer the phone. Brother Byron, why didn't he answer the phone? I need you to answer the phone right now. Why he didn't answer the phone?
It wasn't meant for him to answer that. That wasn't needed. That wasn't who needed to answer that call you were making. It's the same as when they told me if you can get someone to take you on house arrest, we'll let you go on house arrest. And I called a friend that I got high with.
Right.
And he said no. Because that wasn't.
That wasn't what now?
That wasn't the person. That wasn't where I needed to be going.
Right.
That wasn't who the call needed to be made to for you. And that wasn't the place that I needed to be going at that point in that journey.
And I want to acknowledge Charles M. for because somehow he must have been listening, because I think you can shout over the voice. Can't you? I think you can shout over that. Can you shout over that? I think there's a little phase in there where you can maybe get a word or two in without it being accepted. But he ended up getting the call. And he ended up getting the call, so they knew I was in Rankin County. But they had to do the research to find out exactly where I was in Rankin County. But I did not want them to know that I had coke on my person. All right. The other members are really supporting me in coming to terms with this new word, addict. I haven't accepted it. Chris, a counselor, took me aside and expressed that I can't take advantage of the program until I come face to face with the demons, the darkness, addiction. Can you give me a reflection on that? Chris pulled me off to the side and said, "Dude, you holding yourself up, man."
Well, I can say this. I didn't have that problem. I can probably relate to that in the terms of being able to honestly take a look within and take a look at oneself, at self. I never was able to look at self. And when you're able to honestly look, probably because I might have been afraid of what I was going to see.
Right.
Or would not have liked what I actually saw. But being able to look at one's self squarely in the face and recognize this is me for who I am and what I am, no matter what the station is, then, it makes it easier to have some acceptance and surrender for what the deal is. And then you're able to start moving forward with, making whatever changes that are necessary. So that if that's acknowledging that I'm an addict, I'm a crackhead, I'm a whatever it is.
Right.
It is what it is, baby. Now what are you going to do about it?
You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. You have power over your mind, not outside events. I still struggle with that one. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius.
Acknowledging that I don't have power over outside events is another form of understanding powerlessness, people, places, and things. So outside events falls under the people, places, and things category, But power over my mind, well, I have some control over a few things.
Right.
I have a control over how my day is going to be today. I have some control over the things that I allow to be fed into my mind.
Right.
So I have some power over that.
Okay.
You know.
May 25th, clean and sober. I think I've been in there 3 days. This is Wednesday. So I've done 72 hours. I got clean and sober, exclamation point, pow, 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 hump day. Today I joined the Addict Club. I decided to join the Addict Club. I do have an addiction, and I'm ready for help and assistance. What is the difference between help and assistance based on your experience and your journey? Help and assistance. Is there a difference? Is there a correlation? Is there a difference?
I'm thinking, they're kind of synonymous, help and assistance are kind of synonymous terms. What it means is that there's something that I'm not able to fix myself and I need some assistance with it, or I need some help with it from others.
Okay.
And in this world that we're in, it's the people that God has put in our pathway to help us.
Okay. I call them the people that's holding the rope. The peer evaluation session. The peer evaluation session. So I'm 3 days in, and somebody's having a peer evaluation. And a peer evaluation is a list of descriptives, character descriptions, character phrases. So we get a chance to listen to someone tell their story, and then we get a chance to go back and check off which things apply. I think I got that. Which things apply, and then there's some questions where you can really get. So if you got some animosity towards somebody, this is where you can really get personal. Because they don't get to give anything back when you're reading off.
Yes, sir.
Oh, matter of fact, do I have one? Hold on. I'm going to let you read these off. Man, I actually brought. Do you still have your paperwork?
I do.
Okay, hold on.
I do.
Okay. This is getting fun. Just read off a couple of those. Just read off all of them on there.
The ones that are checked?
No. Those are mine. Read off all of them first so the audience, the viewing and listening audience can.
So from 1 to 25, has low self-esteem, overvalues self, is too serious, no sense of humor, is too silly, clowns around too much, lacks commitment, sees self as victim, filled with self-pity, blames others for own shortcomings, talks too much, is a poor listener, shows inappropriate anger and resentment, is too passive, doesn't assert self enough, is complying with treatment to satisfy others, does not trust others, is overly defensive when confronted, wants to do it alone, falsely proud, is a perfectionist, hides true feelings, is too intellectual, is preoccupied with past unduly guilty, projects a gloomy future, is hypocritical, talks the talk but doesn't walk the walk, is a people pleaser, minimizes the disease of alcoholism, minimizes drinking history, and life story lacks honesty.
Okay, so those are character defects. Are those considered to be character defects or observations?
Yeah, I would say observations by others.
So the peer evaluation is this, and I think the candidate gets maybe about, 15, 20 minutes? It's an hour session.
Right.
But the candidate gets how long to tell the story? Is it about 15, 20 minutes?
I think it was something like that. And when I went through my peer evaluation,
What is that? Oh, I did? Okay. All right. I didn't want you to see who we were. So what I'm about to do is I'm going to allow my sponsor, my big brother, to read off. Sean, bless his heart. He's bless his spirit. He's already ascended. Sean was taken away from us, murdered. He was murdered the way he said he murdered someone. He shared his story the last week, the last day before he was leaving after the weekend. So he had held on to some stuff. He was a blood from Washington, from the state of Washington. And when he came into the circle, he had put his flag back in his pocket, his whole demeanor. Now, he was a pastor the whole while he was in there. He had served some time. So when he got ready to leave, he had put his flag back in his pocket. His whole demeanor had altered. He went back to who he was. And 30 days after leaving, now he told the story about murder. He told the story about killing someone. 30 days after he left, he stopped taking phone calls from us. Mm-hmm. We all giving out telephone, we get the number, we can call now. After the first week, you can start calling the outside. You get a limit, I think it's 5 minutes, might be 3 minutes.
Right.
So I was calling, we become close, and he stopped taking my calls. Well, anyway, he ended up being killed the same way he had described taking someone's life 30 days after he left.
Wow.
That's deep. That is so deep. So there are stories that are unfolding when you're in these circles and you're getting a chance to look at other people going through their demons or their darkness. And you're like, oh, man, that would never happen to me, blah, blah, blah. But when things start becoming a revelation, like he left, and they tell us about your phone being turned off when you go back to using, you're disconnecting from the people they give us the signs and the tools. Would you please read what Sean saw in my story?
Sean said he checked off overvalue self.
What is overvalue self?
Oh, you think you all that? You are a lot more than you really are.
Okay,
right? And yeah, he also checked lacks commitment.
What was he saying about me in that one? I'm faking and shaking.
Well, it's kind of like the things you were talking about earlier. You felt you didn't need this program, and so isn't it interesting, before I go to the next one, isn't it interesting when they talk about the blind spots, the things that we can't see that others can see, because that's what this is all about.
Right.
And look what he checked off, overvalued self, lacks commitment, talks too much.
I am a sweet talker. I will talk.
Shows inappropriate anger and resentment. Wants to do it alone. Falsely proud. And didn't you not say that, you had an attitude of like, them, those. Them, but not
over
me.
there.
Right, over there. Hides true feelings. It's too intellectual.
What does too intellectual say? That I always say this. Those of us that get high are not dumb people.
No.
So what is our level of intellectual when we're in our using?
Oh, man. We know it all. And I always tell people ain't nothing worse than a crackhead with a college degree. That's probably why I was out there as long as I was. You're fooling yourself. And because I got told the same thing.
Right.
He says it's a people pleaser.
What is a people pleaser?
In order to fit in, we'll in order to fit in and get along and be a part of, we'll I call it kind of demean yourself and do anything you need to be able to fit in.
Okay.
And that's, you go along with the crowd, and I know what that's like. I want to be liked, so I'm going to do whatever it takes to, or be whatever I need to be in order to get there. Minimizes the disease of alcoholism. You did say that.
I did.
And minimizes drinking history.
Okay, and I wasn't a drinker, but I was a drug. I used drugs.
Right.
I participated in what we call it. What's the word? Recreational. I'm a connoisseur.
Yeah, right. That's what we said.
I'm a connoisseur. Flip that. So Byron, how many weeks are we into the program before we do the peer evaluation? Is that like coming toward the end?
I know it's at least because the program is like 8 weeks long. So in order for them to accomplish that, we've had to have been in there at least 6 weeks. I think.
So I'm 6 weeks in,
something like that.
and this gentleman is looking at me,
Right,
telling me about me,
right,
and you get 25 of those,
right.
25 of those. Let me. I'm gonna read. And they have. Flip the page for me. What's one of the questions on there? These peer evaluations are the cornerstone of where you've come and where you are, because now you have to make a decision on, do I need more intense recovery in place? What's the first question on there?
What do you see in the consumer's attitude or behavior that is causing problems recovery? And his answer was intellectualizes things too much and is holding on to lots of anger and resentments that won't allow him to fully grow and change into the man God made him to be. Deep. From another addict.
Sean was deep.
Yeah.
Go to the next one. The next question.
What one change would help the consumer the most? Keep your program simple. Do a moral inventory of yourself and get those resentments out. Speak up as many tools and into as much as possible, put God first. So I will tell you this: these answers he's giving, something was reaching him too.
Yes, sir. Because the assignment is about seeing yourself through the person that you're supposedly psychoanalyzing.
Right.
Okay, what's the next question?
From the list below of character defects, check 3 that you feel most applied to the consumer: false pride, resentment, and anger. That keeps coming up. That resentment and anger thing, I notice, keeps coming up.
Yes, sir. What is false pride, Brother Byron? Thinking you more than what you are?
Thinking more than what you are.
Better than the people around you?
Yeah, pretty much. And I used to hear a saying, this said, pride will fuck you up. Okay? Okay? Because I think having false pride, leads you in a state of denial.
Okay.
You're not looking at reality.
Right.
You're painting a picture of something that's not real.
I know y'all not talking about me.
Right. No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. Okay. Give an example for each choice. False pride. From being a Q dog and selling weed on campus. Were you a Q dog?
Yes, sir.
So
yes,
was
sir.
my dad.
I'm that guy.
Okay.
I'm that dude.
Okay.
And not blaming the fraternity. Not blaming the fraternity.
Right.
Yeah, not. I don't want to give a false pretense. That's what the doors were open. Okay.
Resentment toward father for cheating on mom and beating his mom when he was younger.
And let me correct that. What our perception is, because I'm looking to blame something.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad didn't beat my mother. And I don't want to say...
Dear did not.
Yeah, and I don't want to say he cheated on her. I'm looking for somewhere to blame somebody for why I'm acting out the way I'm acting out.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not me. It's something that has transpired. So I just want to make sure that I put some clarity to that. That is over 20-some years. That's 20-some years.
Right,
okay.
And we know what our state of mind was.
Right.
Yeah.
I had to blame somebody. My dad has been he's a pinnacle in my life, and I'm blessed to have him. I'm so favored. So what's next on there?
Anger toward the person that he caught herpes simplex 2 from.
Okay. Go right ahead. All right. On the back side of that, is it some more? Is that it? Is another page?
Yeah, one side.
Okay.
All right. Check the following as applies to the consumer. Is consumer active in group? Yes. Does consumer express feelings openly? Yes. Do you feel the consumer is honest? Yes. Check one of the following. Consumer is serious about the program. And now there's 4 things here. And he checked that one. Consumers just complying was not checked. No change seen since admission was not checked. And consumer is disruptive and negative. That was not checked.
Okay.
So that says something.
Okay. And last but not least, he got a paragraph on the back.
Well, wait a minute before we go there.
Yes, sir.
What positive things do you see the consumer doing now that are helpful to recovery. Note, do not use examples such as attending AA meetings or other activities that are required by Harbor House. And he says, I see him opening up and taking suggestions, asking questions, and is a strong believer in keeping the group strong and tight.
And then last but not least, they have to write a paragraph about, is that like
and he's speaking directly to you.
He's speaking directly to me. Now, it's 25 people that do this.
Right. Howard, dog, you were something else. I'll just tell you straight up. There's no other option but for you to stay clean and sober. If you don't, you will either die or, well, die. I say this because of your addictive personality. I like you more than you know, homie. You need to search yourself out, get out of your mind and into your heart. Let go of those regrets, resentments, and angers you have, and let go and let God be first, second, foremost in your life. It's time to do something for you now. Get selfish in your program and become that man and father and son that God made you to be. If you put him first, you will be truly something else. You feel me? Stay in touch with me, dog. I'm in Jackson, so you can call anytime. And he has on here his 2 phone numbers, and that term where I first heard it in the first time I was in Harbor House, love and concern.
Love and concern. We had everything that we did had to, because it can get pretty personal.
Yes, it could.
It gets pretty personal, and we personalize because sometimes there's some animosity on the floor. There's some behavior dysfunctions, but we always would close when we gave a comment, love and concern, or on the front end, love and concern.
And Greg always, Greg made it a point to let people know we're not trying to hurt your feelings. All these things that you hear, negative as they may, are all out of love and concern.
So I just want to make sure that I acknowledge Brother Sean. We meet people along the way. Every now and then someone comes along and shows us who we are and what we might become. It's a matter of being in the right place at the right time. But it doesn't happen to everyone. And just you reading that is almost like Brother Sean talking to me, because you're 2 years ahead of the program. And I think sometimes I tend to displace the journey and the effort and the energy of how far I've come, because I still think I thought I was normal when I was in that particular predicament.
Right.
So I just want to thank you for coming along. You came along probably in about, our 5th or 6th. What part of the journey did they allow you all to have access to us?
Well, they always allowed someone from the outside to come on. I think it was usually on a Saturday night or something.
There was a Saturday night.
And they allowed someone from the outside who probably had been through Harbor House to come out and share their life story.
Okay.
So that was pretty much every weekend. So I couldn't say exactly how many weeks into your program that happened, but it was a normal occurrence, because they did the same thing when I was there.
I don't know why, but just in my mind, I remember you sitting there in front of it and you saying, "You think this shit funny, don't you?" You're gonna be the main motherfucker back out there on that journey, because you ain't finished yet. I don't know if you was talking to me or somebody else, because you really got my attention. But some of us in there snickering, not paying attention.
Right.
You think that shit is funny, don't you?
Right.
That's you. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So you did make a lasting impression. I believe that everything happens for a reason. People change so that they can learn to let go. Things go wrong so that you appreciate them when they're right. You believe lies so you eventually learn to trust no one but yourself. And sometimes good things fall apart so better things can fall together. Marilyn Monroe. I always said that my journey, my adventure, that saved my life.
I agree with you.
And it's still saving my life.
And I wouldn't trade that journey for anything in the world. Howard, man, we've been given the opportunity to live a complete second life.
Wow.
Truth. And, I often think about some of those years that I was out there, and, hey, man, that we got through that.
Yes, sir.
And those are those experiences is what we can use now to be a service to someone else and help someone else who's suffering.
And the conversation today is about assisting, serving. I'm not going to say assisting, but serving other people.
Yes.
Giving to other people. And when I put me in the equation, I have to make sure that I'm serving.
Right.
Not being a damn fool, not letting somebody take advantage of me, but serving. There's no time frame to serving. It can be 30 seconds, it can be a minute, it can be an hour, it can be days, it can be weeks.
And many ways to do it.
And in our relationship, because I think as I was nearing the end of the program, I think you came for sure that night and really got my attention, but you came some more times and visited. And I kind of was drawn to you, and you gave me your number. And I've been communicating with this brother for over 20 years.
Well, I can honestly remember, we didn't talk on the phone a whole lot, but I remember those music files that you used to text to me in the morning time, you know. So, and it's just, you know, and that's those connections, man, are cherished connections that, you know, that helps to, you know, keep us on that right track in this journey.
And nothing gives me more, because we never know who's falling off. This journey is not a cut and dry. You don't get a template. You do get a template. You just have to work the template. You have to work the program. And to be sitting here across from you still clean and sober. And let me ask this question. When will we be healed? What is your response to when will we be healed?
Well, I guess I had to come back with a question, was healed of what, though?
Okay, our addiction of using, of the temptation of going back.
You know, they say the possibility always exists if we don't, you know, do the things that we are taught to do. And I've been in the program long enough and have heard enough horror stories of people who have been sober 10, 15, 20 years that actually did go back out. So let's just say that I'm healed 24 hours a day at a time. You know, that's the best way I can put that.
Okay. And I always say that I'm healed when I close my eyes for the last time. So I'm still learning.
I understand that concept as well.
Yeah, and it's important to keep people. It's important that they say when you get your sponsors that you need to have more than one, because there's no excuse or no reason, because you've already picked up and used before you even picked up and used.
Right. In your mind.
In your mind. African proverb, no matter how sharp your teeth are, you can't bite water. Meaning each problem comes with its own solution. Take time to understand the nature of the situation before taking action. Each problem comes with its own solution. Take time to understand the nature of the situation before taking action. What does that say? What does that say?
Well, each problem comes with its own solution requires that that I analyze what a problem is and maybe come up with a range of solutions, and might need to seek counsel in getting some assistance in arriving at the best one.
Wow.
You know, that means that I'm not, you know, we learn in this program to not fully rely on our own thinking, you know, and you know, which underscores the importance of sponsorship. I still need to run things by some people.
Right.
When I have some problems. See, when I'm having a problem, Howard, man, that's probably when my thinking, you know, can get a little bit off kilter. When I'm having a problem, obviously it's a problem, it's something that I don't like. Okay, so then that's when my thinking tends to go sideways. I need to seek some counsel. You know, that means that I need to say a prayer to my higher power for some guidance, or seek some guidance from a trusted friend or a sponsor.
Wow. We don't grow when things are easy. We grow when we face challenges. You are not your failures unless you kneel before them, rise, and they become steps. Marcus Aurelius. You are not your failures unless you kneel before them, rise, and they become steps.
That means that I'm facing them, and when I face them, then I'm able to. They become steps, because they become steps in a ladder, you know, to a higher plane of existence. I don't know if that sounded philosophical or whatever.
That's living life on life terms.
Living life on life's terms.
That's one of our keynotes.
And then putting God first, when you put God first, you're being removed from sinking sand and you're putting on solid ground.
And we're sharing to help others. Surrender, trust God, clean house, help others. Keep going, no matter how stuck you feel, no matter how bad things are right now, no matter how bad things are right now, no matter how many days you've spent crying, no matter how hopeless and depressed you feel. The closer I got to my completion date for primary, the further it seemed like the time was just going like so slow. But the end does come. No matter how many days you've spent wishing things were different, I promise you won't feel this way forever. Keep going. So to all of my people who are in the moment-to-moment battle with addiction, no matter, and it's more to it than just the drugs. There's so many different tiers of addiction. Just keep going. Surround yourself with the right people, be in the right spaces, and find some support and be convicted with your intentions of participating. Anything you would like to share with the audience as we close out?
No, I think you pretty much covered it all. Let's just say that, as we say in the program, there is a solution. Drugs and alcohol or whatever problem we're going through doesn't have to be it. That there is a solution.
And you don't have to do it by yourself.
Don't have to do it by yourself.
Don't have to do it by yourself.
And my final comment will be surrender, trust God, clean house, and help others. Helping others, and I just want to comment on the helping others. Helping other people, helped a lot of us to find something, be useful. God found some work for me to do. And as you can see, and I'm sure you're aware of, there's a endless supply of people who need some type of assistance from addiction or whatever it is. So there's work to be done, and there's no greater feeling than feeling that I've used some of my past experiences to help another suffering individual.
Right. And when we help or love on someone else, I'm still loving back on me because I'm not removed from the day-to-day minutiae of if I don't manage what I have going on, if I'm not paying attention, if I'm not using my tools, there's a word that we use called relapse.
Right.
It's very easy to fall off the wagon. They spoke about you guys talking about being clean here. You ain't even got on the wagon good. You just been here a week. You don't get healed in 2 months.
Right.
So just the disease is cunning, baffling, and powerful. Cunning, baffling, and powerful. And I want to make sure that I acknowledge they've got the Grace House, 2219 North Lamar Street. The contact number is 601-353-1038. Also, there's an organization in Vicksburg I met this week called Beautiful Deliverance. Contact number is going to be 601-501-1156, 4304 Halls Ferry Road. That's Vicksburg, Mississippi. And my favorite, the Harbor House Recovery Center Transitional Program for Men and Women, 5354 I-55 South Frontage Road, East Jackson, Mississippi, 601-371-7335. And we also have a term that says keep coming back. The program does work as long as you work it. If you work it now. If you work it, anything that is desirable to have in life, just like going out there and learning some of these behaviors that we learned, it didn't happen overnight.
That's right.
It's a process. So just want to make sure that you all know that help is here. It ain't on the way. It's here. But something else we say. When you get sick and tired of being sick and tired,
you'll do something. You'll make changes. When you get sick and tired of being sick and tired.
And family members, I know you guys are going through a lot. I know you're going through a lot. You're experiencing a lot, and we can't come in till we get ready to come in. But something's going to gander. Is that the right word? Our attention.
Right.
So just pray over it. I guess what can we say to a family member that's watching a family member go through this adventure, this journey?
yes, it's rough. I know that my mom had a real difficult time watching me literally kill myself, you know, but hopefully that there is, you know, a belief in God within the family, you know, and when they realize that turning that situation as a family over to the a higher power is the only solution, then it's going to be best for all. Keep praying for them and never give up.
Okay. And I hate this, and I want to add this too. Make sure that life insurance policy is out there too as well. Yeah. You know,
keep that payment
I'm
up.
gonna stand over here and cry. I want to make sure I get a little.
I
something,
mean,
something
it's just the reality of the situation.
It's the reality. Okay. Here's some few little sayings, and I want to give a shout out. Stay in the moment. Don't plan ahead. That was Mr. Thomas. Self-will. Stay out of your mind, Mr. Thomas. Slow down, Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams was 10. That's what he did.
Yes,
10
it
years
was.
in
Yep.
state penitentiary. He wasn't even from. They said they'd been tracking him. They were looking for him. Keep it simple, Mr. Chris. God needs your cooperation, Mr. Don. Your daily paycheck is your life. That's Mr. Greg. Your daily paycheck is your life. Your way don't work. Try something new, Mr. Chris. Good answers. Yes, no, maybe, wait. That's Brother Randolph. Peace of mind, Brother Dennis. Game recognizes game.
Oh, that was Greg, man. Game recognizes game.
Oh man, that's him.
Yeah.
He told me that on June the 1st, 2005. What do you mean when he told me that? I wasn't the first one he had told that to, apparently. What does that mean?
You ain't fooling nobody with that bullshit.
Oh man. There's some good in the worst of us and some bad in the best of us. That was Brother Cornelius. Do what's in front of you. That was Brother Randolph. Don't look at the years ahead. Look at the minutes I've been sober right now today. That was Brother Jared. It's your choice. That was Mr. Greg. It's your choice. He didn't tolerate that bullshit. Yeah. While you're here, get something to take out. While you're here, get something to take with you. That was Mr. Chris. We don't discriminate. We accumulate. That's Bro Ryan. Identify your problems and accept it, and get help with it, Mr. Chris. Be honest to yourself. Mr. Chris was in my ear. He was in my face. Maybe next time if you make it back. That was a big one. Maybe next time if you make it back.
If you make it back.
If you make it back. That was Mr. Chris. People's lives are at stake, Mr. Chris. Be prepared to do whatever it takes, Mr. Chris. Take a shortcut, and it will catch you later, Mr. Chris. If you know what you needed, that had to be Mr. Chris, too. Only one will stay sober. He was talking about out of the group of 25.
Mm-hmm. Only a couple, only one or two.
We'll make it. Fear knocked at the door, faith answered, and fear ran, Mr. Greg. You can't, he can, let him, Mr. Greg. The craving is just a feeling, Mr. Chris. Change, that's Mr. Bennett.
Yeah.
Yeah, with his smart talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Accept life on life's terms, Mr. Bennett. Nobody owes us anything, but we owe everybody else everything, Mr. Chris. And I want to kind of piggyback off of that one. We were told, it was shared with us, that just because you're on a journey of redemption and healing doesn't mean that the people that you've hurt and burned have to accept it.
Right.
What does that mean, Brother Byron? Just because I feel like I'm changing, does my mother have to accept the fact that I'm sin? Or I'm...
Well, we were told that we taught those people how to treat us. So all of a sudden now, I decide now that the light bulb don't come on, and I decided to get things right. They don't necessarily mean that they have to either believe it, go along with it, or have to accept it because they're angry too.
Right.
It's a process for them as well.
Because we've hurt people.
Right.
We've burned people.
Right.
We've taken from people.
We lied to people.
Shit. This ain't the end. This is a new beginning. That was Mr. Williams. Remember, no matter what they make you say, they can't make you fail. That was Rick Weldon. Ego, edging God out. Mr. Chris gave me that one. It's only a dream, bro Corey. Your sobriety is your responsibility. Your addiction wants to murder you.
Ooh.
That was Brother Randolph.
Ooh.
Your addiction wants to murder you. Why'd you say ooh? Why the response on that one?
Because I always used to hear that, you know, that your addiction wants you dead, dead, dead.
Yeah.
Nothing else. Once you dead.
Choice, Mr. Chris. One little action at a time, Mr. Chris. Wow. Wow. That's deep. Brother,
Very.
I want you to know let me show you a picture of your book. When I went in my what they call it, not initiation, but my intake, when they put me on the scales, they told me I was 130 pounds. I'm like, man, no, ain't no way. Because we don't see ourselves in real time.
Right.
But I took these pictures right before I went in.
Yeah. I have similar pictures.
130 pounds. I told them to scale me up again.
But I tell you one thing, we all got good and fat off them homemade. I'm sure if you were in there in 2005, you had to remember Miss Wilma in the kitchen.
Yes.
You know, because her daughter almost, Miss Betty, worked there too.
I remember Miss Betty.
Miss Wilma, man.
And Miss Shirley. You know Miss Shirley?
Yeah. And Miss Wilma made them homemade cinnamon rolls.
Right.
And we all didn't look like this anymore after 6 weeks in Harbor House.
When I first went in, I wasn't eating pork. I think that, because, you know, you think you can call up Pizza Hut or go out and get you something to eat. I think by the third day, because I was giving the pork away. Man, they had pork. I mean, we had plenty pork.
Oh, yeah. Ooh. Plenty pork, plenty fried, plenty.
Man.
Yeah.
I asked them, could I get a bag of wings or some catfish or something dropped off? They told me that was my problem. I wanted to run something.
Yeah.
But by the third day, I was eating all the pork. I wasn't passing out. None of my food.
Oh, you special.
Yeah.
You different, you know. Yeah.
Sure. Bring what you say you're going to bring.
Yeah.
Yeah. And last but not least, this is, I received this on July the 5th. Mr. Greg was supposed to have done this, but Mr. Chris ended up doing it. And because Mr. Greg had gone down to.
And what day did you say?
I came out on July 5th.
Okay.
I went in on the 22nd. Let me just show you guys. Out of all the recognition that I've attained and retained, this one here is the most personal. And I think Mr. Chris told me, he said, when you get high, you might as well ball that up. I said, shit, if I get high, I'm going to roll this up and fire this up and use it as a match. He said, he told me, he said, Howard, you're going to have some challenges because can't nobody tell you nothing. But what were you about to say?
I have mine, too.
Yes, sir.
It's on the wall at the house right now.
Yeah. This is the most important. This is, as Brother Byron would say, this is my second chance. This is my second life.
Right.
Yeah. My second life. Okay. All right, Mr. Byron White.
And Howard, I want to thank you again for this opportunity and for having me, and I thoroughly enjoyed this.
But it won't be the last. It won't be the last. We serving others, clean house, trust God, surrender. It's just an honor that you would show up. Hey, Mr. Jordan. It's just an honor that you happen to be here during my pledge period, because my journey started on the 22nd. Well, really 3 nights before that, around the 18th, 17th, 18th, 19th. It's just, so I'm not going to say this is coincidental. This was meant to be.
It was meant to be.
And, man, it's nothing like when you call and check in, you know. I don't want my phone to be disconnected. I don't want to sound like I'm hungover. Yeah, man. And I think I've seen 1 or 2 people since I've, Brother Dennis, he's still clean and sober, but I haven't seen anybody else that came.
I haven't seen anybody.
Oh, yes, I did. I've seen a couple other people. I'm just proud of them. When I see them, I'm proud of them.
I see a few people. I see a number of people that came in before me. But if I look at the people, any of the people that were there the 6 weeks that I was there, I don't see any of them.
Okay.
And, you know, hopefully they're sober somewhere.
Okay. All right. Hey, you've been listening to Community Conversation with Mr. Byron White, L.A. Chicago connection. You know, that's a lot in one keg. Visions Unlimited Studios, live stream on Howard Sanders uppercase I. Please join the group Community Strong Fort Jackson MS, YouTube Howard Space Sanders 2. And as always, it's a pleasure to be in love with the community, and no blaming and shaming. I got another one for you. I'm going to let you get this one. I'm aware that the strength and knowledge I've gained from my experiences can help other people who are on the same path. Sharing my successes lifts others up, and sharing my mistakes protects them. That's pretty deep. And I'm going to let you do this one. Just hold it for a minute.
Let me know when to go.
Yeah. Let me flip you over on the camera. White. Go right ahead.
Always rise. If I could tell you anything to save you the time and the lessons in this life, I would tell you to never let anything that happens turn you bitter. Don't let the pain of something that was out of your hands turn you cold. Love, stay soft. As hard as that is sometimes, try. Try with all your heart to stay tender. I know there's a lot of things that hurt, take us to our knees, and threaten our hearts. Let it go. You can't change it, but you can choose not to let it change you. Don't let the pain define you. You are bigger than that. I hope you know you are never how someone makes you feel. Let it hurt, then let it heal, but don't linger there. Remember, you are who you are, and rise. Stephanie B. Henry, Power of Words.
Any reflection on that one as we close out?
Well, there's a lot packed in here. I think one of the important things in here is don't let the pain define you, because it won't last forever.
Truth. Community conversation with Mr. Hey, 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 and my very own, my big brother, my mentor, my sponsor, Mr. Byron W. We'll be back at 1 o'clock. We've got a mayoral candidate coming in, Mr. Rodney Dupriest, and we look forward to you all being engaged, informed, inspired, connected, and building relationships. Now what we're going to do is we're going to quickly run through these announcements so that you'll know community now. Hold on just one moment here. All right. You can turn yours off if you like, Mr. Byron. Yes, sir. All right. First of all, I want to acknowledge Southern Gold Radio. Be sure to, he's on, Brother HT is on Sundays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for your good old school music. I'm not going to say old school music, but just some good music. I think from 6 to 9. I'm not for sure if that's the same time on Sundays. So he's going to be dropping the link on Community Strong Fort Jackson MS. That's the Southern Gold Radio. Also, we've got a serious chef in the city, Miss Crystal Coleman. Be sure to check her out on Jackson, Mississippi Jobs. And these foods that she's putting together, got to get me some. She says she's looking for a job as a kitchen management in Jackson area. She lives in Ridgeland, been here for about 5 months. She's from Louisiana, and her food is definitely Louisiana look. She has her own catering business. She's just looking for a good paying cooking job and would prefer kitchen management. She does like to do things her way, but she's guaranteed to get job done, get the money flowing. This lady know how to talk too, and keep it flowing. If y'all know any places, please let her know. Thanks in advance. Also, be sure to go over and check out Chase Harris. Chase Harris, he and his son. Wow. Chase Harris on Facebook. Also, exciting news. Pastor Mario 40-day devotional Made in the Middle is now available on Barnes & Noble and Amazon. This devotional was written to encourage you to trust God in the in-between sessions of life. What do you think in-between sessions of life is, Mr. Byron?
Say that again, Howard.
What do you believe when he uses the term in-between seasons of life? What's an in-between? What do you think an in-between season of life? Do you think we experience an in-between season in life?
Well, they always say that there are different seasons in life, so I think maybe the in-between might be the transition period.
Okay. And please follow, the middle doesn't cancel the promise. It strengthens you to carry it. The middle doesn't cancel the promise. It strengthens you to carry it. Also, today,